My name is dilip1 and I run a company called Perfect Relations. I run a whole bunch of other companies, which are all in this space that you will eventually, hopefully, end up working in. I'm very often asked this question as to what are the skills you need to be a great PR person. And the ingredients are fairly simple to my mind. In fact, I'm constantly confused as to why we don't get better people doing what we are doing. What are the skills that you really need? The first is curiosity. Curiosity about the world, curiosity about understanding what makes things work, why people behave in the way they do, how media does things. But as importantly, it's curiosity about what's inside this balance sheet. So curiosity means, to my mind, not learning anything out. So it doesn't matter whether it's important for what you consider. There are very good people in the company who sometimes don't progress, in any company, who don't progress because they say, oh, I never had maths in school, so I'm very scared of reading a balance sheet. You're dead. The second skill is stamina, to stay the course. It doesn't matter. Okay? You just have to try and try again, like that spider in the story you forgot. So you just have to keep going. Stamina is not just about time, it is also about time, but it's also about willpower. Stamina is about being able to stay the course when you failed a couple of times. And stamina is recognizing that you failed, accepting that, but getting up, dusting yourself and carrying on. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You're all very fortunate that this is the first reinvented batch of this course. But I can promise you that this is probably the easiest time to pass this course. It's just going to get worse next year. Simply because you have to keep pushing the envelope every year. You have to make things tougher because the world is getting more complex. The world is not getting any simpler. So to lose your attention for a moment and not have the stamina to stay the course is a skill that is being lost because people are actually collapsing under the weight of too much information, under the weight of too many options, under the weight of the fact that many of them are cocooned in the comfort that they don't need to do it. You can go back home and your parents will fund you for another year. So you have to understand that there's a tough world out there. Many people don't recognize this. They think that there will always be cushions around them. And let me sort of not sound pessimistic, but the great opportunity is that there are not going to be cushions anymore. This is an interesting world because there are opportunities for those who are willing to stay the course, stay curious. That's two. But the third ingredient you need is basic intelligence. Now this is the most rare skill of all, common sense. And again, it is a fundamental right of most human beings who are not pathetically disempowered in terms of skills of mental agility. Everybody has common sense. But again, we've presumed that we can lose it. And many of you have probably lost the ability to make sense of the world just using common sense. So you're spoon-fed all the time. And therefore, many of us have lost the skill of relying on your common sense to get you the answer for something. The first three skills, absolutely, the first three skills that I talked about are all intrinsically something that you have in you, but are losing because of circumstance, because of a pampered childhood, because of having lived in the wrong environment, or in environments where maybe the challenge existed but the opportunity did not. The fundamental building block is being able to write clearly. If you cannot write clearly, all the above skills that you mentioned may exist, but it's going to be lost. You're not going to be able to hack it in this business. Because essentially what happens in the communications business, digital communications, Twitter communications, whatever, it's about written skills. It's about writing the text for even your YouTube broadcast. But to be able to write in a precise manner and be able to communicate what you want in an interesting format is a skill which can be taught. Anything that you write must be structured, it must be simple, it must be sequential,
putting point across,
and it must be tested. You must rewrite it. The skill of being a communicator, the first building block of being a communicator is what are the marks you get in your essays. Essays are not over, essays are not dead. Essays are the future. People are wanting to be communicated to in a skillful manner, in a logical manner, even if it's on a blog, even if it's on a press release. The fact is that today some of these life skills are going to be taught to you. Some of these life skills will be re-energized in you. And communications is about having all these skills come together. It's listening, but listening 360, which is the skill that you need if you're going to be a great communicator. Because when you're sending out a message, some messages are designed to be broadcast as opposed to narrowcast. So when you're doing broadcast kind of communications, which means communicating to a whole bunch of people in one shot, then you need to know how different audiences are speaking to you. So if you don't listen to them, if you don't have exposure to them, if you don't listen to all the FM channels for 15 seconds each, if you don't have the ability to scan, then you're beginning to choke yourself away from the listening experience of 360. So don't say, I don't watch this channel. Don't say, I don't read this newspaper. Listen to it all. So the reason I was sort of being facetious about not being hot on listening is because if you don't listen enough, there's no point listening constantly to some single monotone. There's going to be no fresh data in that. You pick up something and then after that there's not much more to pick up. So listen 360. So that's another skill. So the next skill that you need is exposure and understanding of media. And I hope this exercise has begun, but you need to be exposed to media. Not just internet media, not just print media, but also television media. Not just television media, but maybe even radio media. Because in the next year or so, when the new licenses come out for radios, you're going to have news on radio. So it's going to be another form of communications and no longer just music. So radio is going to be one more form of communications which you'll have to learn how to utilize, how to manage, how to monitor. Now this is what I mean by curiosity. Every single class of yours, if it is successful, must trigger a whole chain of thoughts which is an application of everything I've taught you just now. If you can do that, you're on the starting point of trying to be communicators. Okay? Each of you should start a Twitter account if you don't have one. And you should use a Twitter handle. A smart tweet is not foolish. It's not necessarily humorous. But it says something which people want to pass on to somebody else. I learned this today.